Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. I am your host. You are you are the star of this show, though. This is the Dream Pod, right, where the audience participation is clutch. And as we are wont every morning, good morning, Dubs, Angie, CC, just as consistent as I am. Let's see. Okay, here you go. A little bit of war. Edwin Starr. And then you know what I think? I don't do much promotion, right? Mostly because it's fucking boring to like constantly be like talking about your own shit. Um, Here's my latest. Okay. One of the things I will say I've gotten I hate when people lie and they're like, somebody asked me, people keep asking me. Nobody asked me, but I saw two comments directed at me that was like, did you hear about Joe Biden? And so um we'll get to it, Ange. I realize sort of the frame we're in, right? Where not only did this super just embarrassing budget pass committee, but also we found out the world kind of found out yesterday. Joe Biden has prostate cancer that has metastasized to the bone. And he's had this for as long as 10 years, based on an article I read. Maybe not entirely accurate, but still, like, I do think it probably takes a long time for something to metastasize to the bone. Again, how do you not play with yourself, Joe? Anyway, the re way I respond to grief, uh, because I know a lot of people pre-grieve a cancer announcement. Uh, he could have had this for like as long as a decade. He could be fine for a while. Could. I said could. I don't like the math either. Okay. But what I will shrink to, I said shrink to, uh, in a moment of grief is gallows humor. As someone who's been down a lot over the course of my life, yeah, so you know that's not gonna work, Cease. Like, see what y'all are freaking out about? That ain't gonna fly. Hey, Anon. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I posted my latest in the comments. What up, Crush? You gotta suffer through a little bit of Pacers Knicks stuff. It's a lifestyle. Many of you are not basketball fans, including my wife. You know what I got my wife to do last night? I got my wife to watch a game seven. We almost didn't make. We were fighting late in that fourth quarter. She was like, "Can I change it?" It's a fucking over, Jared. I just I just want to point it out. Like I had to convince her like it's two MVP candidates and one is like probably one of the best centers to ever play basketball. And the other one, SGA, is being compared to Michael Jordan. And she was like, "Oh, come on." And for the record, SGA had 35 and was basically unstoppable. There was a stretch though where SGA took three shots in a row and his teammates got like offensive rebounds and kicked it out to him, and he was trying to do something. Nobody was getting open. He just had to like do something. He didn't hit anything, but it was funny. Like he can't be stopped. He can get off any shot he wants. He can get it. Prostate cancer is slowest growing. I don't know anything about this. Okay. Morning, Gabby. So yeah, I'm gonna say it again. It sucks to say it again. Joe Biden has prostate cancer. It is metastasized to the bone. I posted my latest in the chat this morning as a means to control grief. If you would just give me a moment of your life, watch my latest, suffer through a little bit of Pacers Knicks stuff to get to the stuff about Joe Biden. It's an attempt to process grief through comedy, through humor. Uh, Laughing can kind of take you out of the groove that doom will put you in, right? And I encourage you to do that, okay? Despite sort of like the time in which you live, it's really easy to fall into negativity. As I have been saying, the most impactful thing that we can be doing, okay? Most impactful thing we could be doing is boycott, protest, and strike. And many of you have not. Many of you still go to Facebook, Threads, IG, WhatsApp, Twitter, fucking Amazon, right? You ought to do business locally as much as you can. You ought to be looking locally to spend your money. Local money spends money locally, right? Go find a new local pizza place or burger place. I post, as I tell you, hey, stop going to Twitter, Facebook, stop doom scrolling. Here's where your head should be. I'll post Protest Finder USA, our 50501, our politics, right? Keep your nose in the news and what's actually going on. I don't know if I think I shared this yesterday, but I think this is important. Over 100,000 protesters showed up at The Hague. Oh my God, Don Jr. is an idiot. Don Jr. posted in response to an announcement that fucking Joe Biden has prostate cancer, right? Don Jr.'s like, how did his doctor wife miss that for over a decade? I just want to point out, Dr. Jill, that's her name, right? Jill Biden? Dr. Jill has a fucking doctorate in English, in education. You idiots! Like, Don Jr. could not be a fucking, like, lower form of filth, you fucking cokehead, right? Shout out to all my like stable cokeheads. Life is like this. Right out of the TikTok shop. I'm just kidding. The reality is that's Don Jr., right? On drugs, on TV, disrespecting Joe Biden in his sort of darkest moment, right? He said, "Don't call me stable. You trying to argue with me by starting with name calling and shit?" You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I've had friends. Uh, Fuck Donald Trump. Yes, yes. Every single day. I've been saying it. But yeah, Don Jr. was super disrespectful to um to Joe Biden in the wake of him um it gonna getting his balls plastered all over the internet, huh? Indianapolis. I live in Lawrence, hmm Northwest Indiana. I interviewed to be a head coach at Tri-County High School in Wolcott, Indiana. It's a little 1A school. Had like 40 kids. But yeah, as I've said, if you're gonna sit on your duff and do nothing, least you could do is join a protest. Yeah, I saw Donald Trump's condolences message, and you know what I read? Oh, he didn't write that. That's a complete sentence. Two of them. Yeah, and I understand a lot of people are kind of freaking out in the chat about a bill passing overnight. But think about what you're saying, and do you think that that's how that works? Do you think it's gonna stand up? 1716 to advance the bill, which would extend Trump's tax cuts and boost his border funding priorities while reforming Medicaid and food assistance program. The four Republican holdouts who tanked the vote on Friday, Reps Ralph Norman, South Carolina, Chip Roy, Texas, you knew that was coming, Andrew Clyde, Georgia, Brasheen, Oklahoma, voted to present the bill to go forward, with Roy revealing that there was progress on moving up the start date for new Medicaid work requirements and speeding up the phase out of green energy incentives. In a sign of the high stakes nature of the vote, the Speaker, as well as White House Legislative Affairs Director James Braid, made appearances off a room to the side of the late night Budget Committee affair. Speaker Mike Johnson said they were counting the vote as a big win. The next stop is the House Rules Committee, which is set to take up the legislation this week and make last minute changes to the bill to reflect any compromises and demands between deficit hawks and moderates in high tax states. Despite the victory for leadership, conservatives indicated they have more work to do. Chip Roy said that while he voted present out of respect for the Republican conference and the president, the bill does not meet the moment. He said the revamped measure would move Medicaid work requirements forward and reduces the availability of future subsidies under the Green New scam. But in a statement on X, he objected to provisions around green energy tax. So obviously, one of the things that I'm catching from this is Chip Roy was the most obvious snake in the grass. He voted against it as a snake would do, and then when it actually came to the vote, he turned coat on uh, even though he was against it publicly, he voted to pass it forward, which you knew he was going to do. He's been submitting bills. Okay, so how about that for a good little first article? Um, again, it's committees. It still has to go. You understand what I'm saying? Mm, yeah, I don't think that's what that says. I think that y'all are freaking out and you didn't read. This is going from committee to committee. I don't see it going into effect. It'll get lost in committee and lost in it's gonna get I mean think about how long it like I just hey, I mean get familiar with filial law. Like I don't know what you want me to say. Like a $200 billion cut to Medicaid is going to end healthcare for children. It's going to end nursing homes, small clinics, regional hospitals, like your local hospital, that's gone, right? Only the really big ass hospitals are the ones that are going to stay in effect. And these are the ones that have labor shortages and have fucking issues. So like I don't know what you want me to say. It's going bouncing committee to committee. It has to be negotiated on before it'll actually go into effect. The people that have voted to move it forward are already saying like the bill doesn't meet the moment. So it's just gonna get muddy, right? And it's gonna be they're gonna take months to fucking make anything happen, and it's gonna blow up. It's just I mean think about this. We're already halfway through 2025, right? You're basically at the midterms, right? We need to start identifying candidates and start, yeah, but it's in committees. It's not, it's like not at the House yet. They're still changing it. The article I just wrote says it goes to another committee, and by the end of the week, it'll get renegotiated. All the cuts and shit will be renegotiated. And I think it's gonna get like muddied. It's time to download the Five Calls app and start calling your representatives. Hmm. Yep. If you haven't, uh, been around in a while, a lot of people got a little pissy because they couldn't tolerate that there wasn't a daily, it's going to another committee. It's going to another committee. I literally put the article from the Hill and I just read it to you. It's going to another committee and because all the numbers got to be like finalized and renegotiated. So again, it's just going to get muddied down. Uh-huh. The article from the Hill that I just read, it's going to another committee after it passed last night, 1716. It is going to another committee. Uh-huh. I'm going to go back to it and read it to you since apparently that didn't click. And that's okay. That's what I'm here for, right? Because a lot of people are freaking out, right? Next stop is the House Rules Committee. Take up the legislation later this week and make last minute changes to the bill to reflect any compromises and demands between deficit hawks and moderates in high state. Like here, over your opinion. Stop, breathe, breathe. I know hey, I've been telling you to grow a garden, right? I've been telling you to get solar panels, to get to know your neighbors, right? To do business locally. What did you think? Like, are you shocked? But also, it's going to a House Rules Committee. So slow down. Again, I've been telling you to get solar panels, to grow a garden. And I'm also telling you, listen to what you're telling yourself. Like this is like poorly written TV in a late night Democratic. Is it democratic to exclude your colleagues? Session. The Republicans defeated themselves 17 to 16. Counted it as a major victory to move it to another committee, the House Rules Committee. From the article on the Hill, I'm telling you, it is to be negotiated. And again, I would just ask you after they just voted to let people vote, what is it called when they let people vote when they're not there? But they'd let your legislators do that, like if they're pregnant. Didn't that just happen? And you don't allow people to vote, so you excluded them from this vote. They defeated themselves 17 to 16, right? If one Republican votes differently, right? Proxy. Thank you. Voting by proxy. Didn't they just pass that? So how do you think they're going to get away with it when they just allowed vote by proxy? Come on, math it out in your brain. Come on. It's like people are having full-blown panic attacks and it's like, yeah, they just voted to allow people to vote by proxy and they excluded people from this committee from voting and defeated themselves 17 to 16. They're counting it as a major victory. Did they win? Dude, really? Is that a win for you? That sounds like outside of the rules of the game and not going to stick. That sounds like there's no fucking way. And people are just like full blown plunging into a panic when it's like, hey, I've been telling you this whole time. Maybe it's just this really sleepy tone I have that you can just kind of vibe out to. That has been saying, like, you ought to grow a garden. You ought to get familiar with filial law. You ought to get solar panels. You ought to coordinate with your neighbors. You might want to get to know them. You might need to know if they're going to turn you into ice or not. You might want to become real sticky to the other people that you really care about. Real sticky. You might want to start loving the one you're with. hmm Gonna be a rough ride. hmm If you think $200 billion cut to Medicaid ain't gonna directly affect you, you're out of your motherfucking mind. But no, that and this doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of passing. And if you're on the end that's like, "Oh my God, here's the boot on my face." Again, I would just warn you away from doing that. This should make you more defiant. The fact that they stooped to this level to get a bill passed in committee that is this harmful to the American people and lines the pockets of billionaires like it does. One of the things we've got to do is we got to stay in reality. What is actually fucking happening? It's going to another committee. Okay, where last minute adjustments and negotiations and also House Rules Committee, which is going to say back that shit up. Where are the other votes from this committee? This shouldn't even have passed, right? Go back and do that vote again, right? But they get the not the thought process that they've made progress. I understand that in your brain hole, you're like, oh my God, they're beating our ass. And it's like, dude, they're cheating and they're getting caught and they're losing. Do you understand that? Like, we're at like 500 bills signed. Only like a quarter of those have been acknowledged. I hope you even understand what that means. Like, imagine writing 500 sentences and the teacher says only 125 of those are fucking sentences. And of those like 125 executive or it might be like 100, a little under 160 now. Like five pieces of legislation. This one that we're crying about this morning, this budget passing committee and a late night vote that excluded key members of the like Democrats that would have clearly voted this wouldn't have passed if they hadn't done it. Come on, kids, wake up. Like House Rules Committee, what is the House Rules Committee gonna do? How did this get to us? Well, by a fraudulent vote. We'll back that shit up. Am I wrong? Okay. Miss Mika said, "What's my problem?" Well, the bill that passed that committee last night cuts $200 billion from Medicaid, which directly affects small clinics like uh, your clinics in the boonies, those your local doctor's offices, nursing homes. in small communities, your small to medium hospitals are all gonna lose enough money that they'd be in danger of closing. Mhm. So I'm empathetic, and I think, man, that bill actually goes into effect. A lot of people better get really, really familiar with filial law, which is where your parents that you've pushed into a nursing home because you can't afford it and because you don't want them living with you, welcome home. What do you think happens when they got nowhere to go? Okay. Yeah. That's what I was thinking about, Cease, are the hospitals that are in big cities that are not high capacity hospitals. The high capacity hospitals will stay open because they got room. They got beds, right? But them small capacity hospitals in the cities, oh, they're done. They're done for. They don't make enough dollars and they're gonna lose funding. Those private like Jewish hospitals, you know what I'm talking about? Those 3 to 600 bed. Yeah. Floor vote, gonna be a calamity. Mike will be embarrassed again. Can't count. Yep. By the way, as disturbed as TikTok tends to be, there are people cheerleading this thing and also supporting capitalism and the free market and says that this eliminates socialism. I just want to make sure that you all know that I am the founder of the American Socialist Party and I think that everyone should have universal health care, education, income, and housing. I am pro equality, right? That means I fuck with the LGBTQIA plus people of color, especially people that aren't from the United States. If you're an immigrant, I fuck with you because I'm an immigrant, right? I'm just a white immigrant, a white cis male that's willing to say it out loud, right? I'm also very pro union. In fact, I very recently joined a union. So, hey, a lot of the reason that I've never been part of a union before is because I didn't think there was a union for people like me, right? I work in finance, which is kind of the wild, wild west. If I'm being blunt, uh, I, ethics and morals. uh, so I joined the Working America union, which I want to make sure I'm not getting paid to support, just so everyone knows. And that's kind of one of the things that, as a socialist, that you'll notice that my show is completely free of. Okay, I don't, I don't ask for money. Not a fundraiser. This is a news show. I'm here to learn you something. Good to go. So, if you don't feel like there's a union for your vocation, like I was just kind of joking on myself about finance, and the last thing I need is people telling me to calm down, Miss Mika. If you think you're being helpful, it's not helpful. I think you need someone riled up by what is going to hurt a lot of people, right? I think that's kind of the problem that we have is that people, there are issues people are acknowledging, but then as soon as they raise their voice, people are like, calm down. What the fuck do you mean? Like I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not helping by quelling me. I'm not wrong. I'm acknowledging a very like what is going to be painful for not me. Do you understand? Do you understand that? Like I have a great deal of empathy for other people and what other people are going to go through. Like I should be being loud. Being calm is what got us here. Being okay with the status quo is what got us here. Putting our hands in our pockets and just putting our nose in a grindstone and going back to work tomorrow is what got us here. So there's a reason I get up early every day and have for over 6 months now, every single fucking day without a break, and gotten on here and told you, hey, it's time to join something like the Mayday movement, join a union like Working America, especially if you don't feel like your industry has a union, right? No matter what job you're in, it's time to join a union, okay? It's time to get to know your neighbors, okay? You need to know if they're growing a garden that you can eat out of, right? And you need to figure out what they're good at growing, and you need to get real good at growing whatever they're not good at or whatever they're not growing. So that way your neighborhood is producing a dearth and you're just sharing it. Sharing. One of the things that we got to get really good at that we're not very good at is sharing. Communicating. We got to get really good at communicating because we're not very good at it now. And this doesn't mean including people that mean you harm. Okay. So, Crush, see, she said many of my neighbors are real douchebags. That's what I was, as soon as said it out loud, I realized, like, hey, and not you, one thing you got to realize is not all of your neighbors are for you. And if you're able to acknowledge that, you know who you can't lean on, that's just as valuable information. It's unfortunate when you get into a spot, like I said, fortunately, I've never seen a Trump flag on my road. And those American flags are awful emotional. Okay. They're no longer a holiday. So I know my neighbors are paying attention to the fucking news. It shows in the homes. We, we used to we used to proudly display the American flag goddamn near year round. I'm talking about me. Only really pull it in the wind and the rain, right? Yeah, that was me. But I pulled that shit in on November 5th for sure. Yep. I folded that flag up. I haven't seen it in my neighborhood since. Evelyn said, "You're so lucky I'm in Florida. His flags are out, but not as many." Yeah, because those people are not going to make it, man. One of the things that is super harmful is y'all do not understand. You people that are watching this show right now are largely not going to be affected because I'm guessing most people that watch my show have a college education and vote Democrat. And I'm not offending you by pointing out I'm aware of my demographics. Okay? Um who the fuck is we, Knick-knack? Is this your is this your admission? Is this your admission? Uh, Keith said been to a lot of military funerals. I- he was like, we don't agree with you. Education doesn't equal intelligence. And I was just like, you know what I'm not interested in? The next sentence that comes out of your mouth. Good to go? When I hear taps, I still cry. I don't necessarily cry to taps, but I'm have to wonder why the fuck is somebody playing taps? I live in a residential area, you know what I mean? That was an attempt at humor. You're gonna have to deal with that. One of the things that like I said, I think a lot of people are still grieving the fact that Joe Biden, it has been announced that he has prostate cancer that has metastasized to the bone. And in our moment of grief, okay, I made a TikTok this morning that you're gonna have to suffer through some Pacers and Knicks stuff because it's like a big deal. I'm from Indiana, basketball's life, and we're in the Eastern Conference Finals against our bitter rival, the New York Knicks. And by the way, we are way overmatching them. Like that we should blow them the fuck out, and that's what gives it mystique is the garden is mysterious. Also hosted a KK rally that led me to you, so it kind of all ties together actually. But yeah, Ball's life. You're gonna have to suffer through a little bit of that in that video this morning to get to the attempt at comedy that was born out of me this morning. As I woke up still kind of feeling grief actually, kind of being like fuck. I thought Joe Biden was like one of the best presidents that we've ever had, and cancer is a motherfucker and random as a motherfucker. So uh, I saw a lot of people emoting about how they felt, why couldn't it just been the other president, all those things. And I want to make, a piece of content acknowledging that I knew, because that, again, as two different posts of mine, somebody said, did you hear about Joe Biden having cancer? Um, and so I made a piece of content kind of acknowledging that because I think, people are habitual content consumers. They need to see you acknowledge it. I did. I made a joke. I'll tell it to you so that you can go find the video and be like, he made it. It's funny. He tried. Okay, I tried to be funny in a dark fucking time. But I said, I'm not gonna lie, I read the headline, Joe Biden has cancer, and my brain was like, no shit, his name is Donald Trump, constantly running his name through the fucking mud. And then, unfortunately, as your brain reads the rest of the headline, prostate cancer, and I thought, yeah, Joe Biden has big balls. This tracks, right? He'll beat that too. And then metastasize to the bone. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have a bit for that. Sorry. I don't, I tried to make it funny and like gallows humor is kind of where I woke up. So yeah, no grains, right? It's because everybody's got an allergy now, right? That's one of the biggest problems with needing to produce your own is you're going to find out what you're allergic to. See, my family's poor. My parents were poor. So when I was growing up, we had a garden. We had a 60 by 40 garden 9 months out of the year. Got to be, fortunately for us, it was a couple 100 feet from the house. Fortunately for us, it sat in direct sunlight day in and day out, and we could naturally aspirate with water from a pond. And manure was local, so our gardens flourished and fed us when I was a kid. And my dad hunted. My family hunted and fished. That was my childhood. I was trying to escape that self subsistence lifestyle. Sorry, it's a tough word. Subsistence. But I mean we're headed back that way. Because it's like if you don't, you're just gonna spend so much money, more money per meal, that it could price you out of living. You get what I'm saying? You won't be able to pay rent. And there's a reason that, hey, there's a reason I'm a socialist and I want rent reduction. I want removal of interest. I want you not paying as much taxes if this is what your taxes are gonna do. Okay. I just want to point out all the damage that's being done in this regime and tell you this is the polar opposite of socialism. This hyper capitalist fascist authoritarian movement. I'm telling you, I'm a socialist. I'm the founder of the American Socialist Party. I sit here every day with you. We discuss the news and politics. I'm pro equality, pro union. I want everyone to have universal health care, education, and income and housing, and we can afford it. We the people. For we the people, right? There's a bunch of other things that have to happen, but what has to happen, lickety fucking split. Rice, I hate to say it, Rice didn't look bad. If you live in a particularly wet area, I hear rice isn't a bad grow. Obviously, if you live in a dry climate, it's going to be a rough ride either way. One of the things that I'd noticed, even with the other subreddits, our news, our politics, our world news, right? World politics. That's mostly where I try to stick. That's where our show kind of sits. I noticed we were missing the gore flatly. I noticed that mainstream media isn't talking about it. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Ange. That's all I want you to do, dear. That thing you said at the end. I'll reserve my panic. Let me be your barometer. I got a little hot this morning telling people I've been fucking telling you for 6 fucking months to get to know your neighbors and grow a garden and get and become less reliant on the powers that be. Because I'm telling you, if you don't think they won't kill your power, if you don't think they won't cut power, or more appropriately, Jared, what is probably more appropriate, if you think we can keep having these storm outbreaks like this, where there's tornadoes that wipe out and kill a bunch of people with no warning, if you think that won't eventually hit, oh, I don't know, one of the 9 substations. There are 9 of them in the United States that are our entire electric grid. Think about all these tornadoes flatly. Okay. What about it's not even hurricane season yet? That was the thing when I was growing up about tornadoes was that people weren't dying from them anymore. We have early warnings. It's the hurricanes, the big massive storms that come from the ocean that that people die from because they can't leave, right? They're stuck on the levee, right? Remember that? Horrible mental image. Uh, but historically, it's been like people don't die until hurricane season in the South, right? And that's not even here yet. And again, with climate change, if you have not become mentally prepared for what happens when the hurricanes become abnormal, I've tried to my whole life, that's the thing that in my back of my brain I've been like, tornadoes, yeah. Tornadoes get fucking wide enough and goddamn. But what happens as a tornado gets real wide, the requirements for it to continue get bigger and the tornado will die. It won't be as long as a tornado as is wide. But a fucking water and like it's like a it's like a Pokemon. It sounds like I'm talking about Pokemon. But like a hurricane fed by wind and water, like it has a higher threshold. It can get even fucking bigger. And again, I'm not fear mongering when I'm telling you we have entered in climate change wise an unknown territory where they do not have good projection. So I want to make sure I'm not fear mongering you. I'm telling you that they don't know. The powers that be, there's a reason they shut off the NOAA and the National Weather Service, is because they were about to plot a fucking storm that puts three, four states of fucking people into a blind panic. Wait, are you fucking kidding me? And Jared, I'm not. I'm not kidding y'all when I say there's a reason that they would shut down the NOAA or National Weather Service. It's because the President of the United States got a report from the NOAA and National Weather Service saying, look, Don, you know, one of those where the guy sits down and says, all right, Don, you know I'm your buddy. I'm one of your gas buddies. We gotta talk. Okay? Climate change is real and it's a motherfucker. And right now, the hurricanes being like random and there being like 29 hurricanes in a small fucking area, disturbing as that is, as a kid from the Midwest. It's one thing for one tornado, it's another for 29 in southeastern Kentucky. Was that what I saw? All them red indicators is a cyclone? Is that what I'm saying? Just in one small area, that's fucking insane. But here's my I'm just calmly telling you based on behaviors. Somebody told Donald Trump like, "Yo, if you think like the tornadoes are going to keep getting worse, Don." And he's like, "I don't give a fuck about those people." You know what I mean? Because he really doesn't give a fuck about anyone. But then he's like, they explain like Don Mar-a-Lago is going to get hit in the next 3 to 6 months. And what do you think he fucking did? Fired the people that told him that and shut down the fucking NOA and National Weather Service. I don't have time for that shit. Ain't no fucking way. I don't want to hear that. I can promise you. Think about his reasoning for getting rid of the head of the FAA, right? It was to cover up Elon Musk's space shuttle crash that was being investigated from January 17th. Remember that happened on January 17th, and on January 20th, one of the first things Donald Trump got in office, one of the first things he did was fire the head of the FAA and the team investigating the space shuttle crash for Elon. And if you think along that same line of thought, it's like why wouldn't he draw down the NOAA and oh, again, I think we're getting caught up in minutia here. I'm saying like shut down the National Weather Service, draw down the NOAA. Like, why would he do all those things? Probably because somebody told him like, if you think the tornadoes are bad, just wait until we are in unknown territory as it refers to hurricanes. And we're not even in hurricane season yet. And they told Donald Trump that, who lives in Mar-a-Lago. And someone's in my TikTok chat like, they're making a lot of assumptions here. To what end, friend? To what end? Think about why I'm saying that. Why would I say that? Because I'm concerned about the strength of hurricanes this upcoming hurricane season, given that climate, in terms of climate, we're in unknown territory. I am making a lot of assumptions. I did start out by saying we are in unknown territory. We literally do not know um, what happens when the storms are just bigger for clicks. That's cute. So here's the difference between me and you. I don't ask for money. I'm not a fundraiser. There's no links to buy. And I don't doom scroll. I got a day job where I make like $1,000 a day. And I'll give that money away in a heartbeat. But what I won't be is misjudged. Blocked. Yep. And the thing about it is, it happened last week. I was having a conversation with somebody and they told me that where they're from, like from Texas. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And they said, "How's the weather there today?" And I was like, "Well, I'm in Indy." And they're like, "Yeah, how's it in Indy?" And I hadn't really been outside much, but I looked at my cuz your computer's got a little thermometer thing, and I was like, oh, it says it's 81 degrees here. And it was like afternoon. So think about this conversation. It's like afternoon. I'm having a conversation with somebody, and they're like, "Oh, how's the weather in Indy?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's 81 degrees." And I'm like, "How's the weather there?" And they're like, "It's 105." And I was like, "What? In May?" And they were in Texas. And I was like, What?" And it was early afternoon too, right? So it's not quite the heat of the day. Isn't it like heat of the day is like 2, 3 o'clock, right? 2, 3, 4. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, it's 105." It's May. Oh shit. So again, I've told this story before, but there's a reason. One of the things that drives me is like things that have happened to me, right? For example, I took my wife to, and this is a climate change related story. Debs, thank you. Thank you. At least two people are like, holy shit, 105 in May is high for Texas. Yes. And I can't remember where they're from, but I want to say it was Southwest Texas. And if anybody has beef with my story, fuck you. Like, what? Why would I lie about this? They were talking about a singular conversation where somebody said, well, how's the weather in Indiana? And I looked down and I was like, oh, it's like 81 degrees outside. That's great for May. That's a nice, beautiful, that's a warm day in May for Indiana. And they go, yeah, it's like 105 here. And I was like, what? Where are you? In Texas, like Southwest Texas. Hmm. Yeah, USAID has food routing. I saw that yesterday. 60,000 tons of food that was gonna go feed poor people is rotting. So understand while you see those commercials on TV of all those starving kids, Austin, Texas, right on. So yeah, um, many moons ago, my wife and I went to Las Vegas. Okay, and we stayed. We had a crazy experience in Las Vegas. For the record, uh, Las Vegas is incredible. It's also depressing as fuck because it's just too much. I'll say it as a kid that grew up during the poker boom, who went out to Las Vegas with big dreams just like everybody else did, and you find out that I don't know if you've ever seen Rounders or not. I don't know if you've ever seen Rounders or not. But mostly, most people should just be worried about $1 an hour and not really be worried about what you make at a poker table because you're just not gonna. You're just not gonna. Most people are not good poker players. Um, yeah. So many, many moons ago, my wife and I go to Las Vegas in the heat of the summer, by the way, which is probably why it was so cheap to go there, but it was no less packed. Okay. This is 2018. If you need a time frame, it's in the last 10 years, and that makes it a relevant story. Okay. But we go out to Vegas, and I'll tell you kind of what happened. My wife has a way better version of this story. I tell pretty awful stories in retrospect. But long story short, I play Magic the Gathering. Okay. And again, I know you're like, could not roll your eyes harder right now, but I wanted to play in this event in Las Vegas. It was the world's largest limited Grand Prix. Okay. And they made this set called Modern Masters. And if you play Magic the Gathering and you have any idea what I'm talking about, you know that set is super valuable in retrospect. All the Modern Master sets effectively changed Modern forever. But it was a situation in my life where I had extra money and I bought a bunch of boxes of Modern Masters and I broke a bunch of packs open and I built a bunch of decks. So did all the mental reps I could do. And I actually took the time off work, and my wife and I went to Las Vegas so I could play in this Magic event. For the record, it was the largest Magic event ever. Two flights, so two different groups of 4,500 players. So 9,000 people playing competitive Magic the Gathering in the same convention center in Las Vegas. Is why we went to Las Vegas. That's what I'll tell you. I went there to play Magic. My wife went there with money she had saved up with the intent of getting rich off of gambling, and you can understand the disconnect where I tried to tell my wife that is not how Vegas was built, babe. That's not how Vegas was built. You need to stick to the penny slots. You're going to be broke by 10 o'clock, right? So, my wife and I went to Las Vegas, and the initial hotel room we got was supposed to be a party hotel. We were young kids. We want to go party. Right on the corner, across the street from getting on the transit to go to the convention center, and a bunch of Magic players are going to stay there too. I was going to be among friendlies. We go to check into the hotel, and they don't have a room res. So I got to go call, hotels.com or whatever, and they had to fix it. And their rules were if you show up somewhere and we fuck up your reservation, we'll upgrade you for free, and it has to be done by the end of the day. At least that was their like policy that we like signed up for. So we go to this hotel check in. They fucked up our reservation. We called hotels.com. They upgraded us to a suite at Harris. So understand we went from budget fucking friendly to continental fucking breakfast. You know what I mean? Like, and a suite. Now, for the record, I'm a big man. Like I'm like 6'4", pushing 300 pounds. I got my little blonde, blue-eyed wife. That suite felt like it was like a miniature one, like we were stuffed in a corner. Okay, now, I'm dragging this story out a little bit because the actual acme of the story is one day we're woken up by an explosion. So one morning we hear and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Now, understand, we were kind of tucked in a corner, and when you look out our window, we couldn't really see anything but what looks like something has been downed. The little smoke coming off of something clearly embedded into the asphalt in the parking lot. And I thought like a satellite fell in the parking lot of our hotel. So we get dressed, we run downstairs. It could be an occasion, right? And think of it's like mid-morning in Las Vegas in the heat of the summer. Okay. So my wife and I get dressed, we go run downstairs, we can still see the smoke coming off the whatever the fuck that is, right? We eat breakfast and we're like, okay, the crowd has kind of dispersed, so let's go see what it is. And for the record, it was just an upside down machine. Like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And then we noticed as we got out into the sunlight, I feel like I feel like I'm a vampire. As we got out into the sunlight, we realized how hot it was outside. And immediately I had, like a hat on and sunglasses. I turned and was like, holy shit, it's hot as fuck outside, boy. Like, what is the temperature? And the person that was like cordoning off the area said the reason this air conditioner exploded is because it can only get up to like 148 degrees before it does that. And the roof of this hotel gets so fucking hot and those air conditioners explode. And it exploded and flew off the roof in front of us and just landed in the parking lot. Like, and you were just like, wait, what? So if you think like high heat isn't an issue, wait until air conditioning units that aren't built to sustain high heat, high external heat, like the heat of the desert or the heat, you know what I mean? High temperature. Remember, I've been talking about this for the last 6 months about how we've crossed into unknown territory. We are in the territory where they didn't do the projection models because they thought for sure we're gonna go the other way. The world's gonna go the other way from climate change. We're gonna do all the things that we can. right? One of the things that you'll notice that I don't do is I don't sit around and tell you to plant trees. Why? Well, because they did a study and they said that trees aren't absorbing as much carbon as they once were, right? So, for everybody wondering, that's that actually happened to us. We saw it happen and we were like, what is going on? And they were like, "Hey, the the air conditioning units on the roofs of these hotels are not meant to handle this high of external heat." And I know there's going to be people that are like, "Wait, what?" So there's a reason why climate change sucks and why people that have sat around and said, "Oh, the overall average temperature increasing by 1.5 to 3 degrees every year, year over year, is not a big deal until you can't keep an air conditioning unit." Yep. But never this hot, CC. In my opinion. I coached a football game in Kentucky, and I'm telling you, we should have not played because of weather, because it was perfectly too hot and too muggy, where I was on the sideline and the air was so thick and hot that you were like, I can't I, I can't actually take a full breath because of how perfect of a combination of like temperature and humidity it is outside. And so I know for like a lot of people that you just like live through your life like feeling nothing, right? But when you're like doing what it is you want to be doing, you're in your fucking element and your external what is going on actually in your environment, you're like this isn't sustainable. And in my head I'm like I would never coach, I don't want to coach south, right? Because you know that it's going to be, yeah, humidity, high heat. Whew. Give me just a moment here. All right. So, also check this shit out. So I got a job in January at this company. Um, and they sent me a computer for work. And it's unlike any computer I had ever seen. It's like a sandwich. So I'm saying it's like this big. And I mean it's, that long, right? But it's like a sandwich, right? All the stuff is in there, right? Now, Janice said, I'm curious about the statement about trees not absorbing as much carbon. Yeah, yeah. I So if this is from the Guardian, and I made sure to pass it in our show. Yeah, humidity is just, man. And the thing about it is a lot of people can't acknowledge it. They just live, right? And we're not going to talk about that. Mhm. But yeah, the Guardian put out an article. Um, this was 7 months ago. hmm hmm So October-ish. So yeah, around the time that I started is probably one of our first shows. Yeah. See, what happens is they cut down all the smaller trees and remove all the small trees, and they leave the big full-grown trees in a forest. And when you deforest, that's how you do it. You don't just run in and cut down the big trees first. You got to deforest the area. So you come in, clear it of brush, clear it of all the extra growth, right? Then you're going to move up and you're going to take smaller trees. Typically, the less eye appealing trees are just going to get burnt. That's nothing. And then anything salvageable, savable, replantable, they try to replant, but it's not a conservative replant, right? Not with an eye on conservation, more with a so they can sleep at night. Like it depends on the driver kind of thing. But yeah, one of the things about logging that if you've ever watched a logging show, you learn is that the areas in which you log, like those areas, the air quality is bad. It's actually like not a good working environment because you're actively taking out all of the things that would pull carbon from the atmosphere, which this gas powered fucking machine you're in is spitting into the near atmosphere. All of the things that would absorb that are you're taking. And then you're gonna log it too and take all the big trees down and take all the actual log you can out of that. And they've also they've used fire to clear those areas before, and that's like how logging project. That's one of the things about like logging the Amazon. That's like, are you fucking kidding me? Or the president of the United States agreeing to log fucking national parks and shit. Yeah, is wild news. And I always try to make sure I use sources, so you don't, you're like, this person's fucking batshit, right? Like, nope, actually sent you the sources. But yeah. So I want to tell the story. So I got this job and they sent me this PC and I noticed that it's the oddest fucking computer I've ever had in my life. It's like very small. And you're like, and in my head, I was like, I wonder what kind of problems I'll have. Not this seems like the solution. It was, I wonder what kind of problems I'll have. Well, one of the things that I notice is it gets fucking hot to the touch. Those small compact PCs, they got no room to breathe. That shit gets hot to the touch. And this ain't my first one. They've already had to replace this fucking unit. In fact, when tech support called me, they told me this happens all the time with these units. And they told me the reason why. And it's because, and I didn't know this. I don't have a background in this. So if you disagree, it's not my argument. It's what tech support told me at work. Tech support told me it's common with these units to have issues with the USB port overheating or not getting enough power. And it's because there's this putty, this it's like a PC builder's tool that you put in on certain things inside of a computer, and you couldn't get your fingers and put it around the USB port to disperse heat if heat is being drawn to an object. I hope that I'm saying it right and respecting all my fucking PC Master Race nerds. But from what I gathered, there's supposed to be this putty around like the connector of the USB. Like you don't see it, it's on the backside, right? What that backside of that connector is supposed to have this glue on it that's supposed to disperse heat. And it's especially important that that happens because it's so compact. That's super important that that shit is there. And he said, because it's so compact, you can't like get your hand in there and fucking get that putty around that. You gotta deal with it if you have issues. I'm just telling you what someone else told me. So I was like, there's no way you're sending me that again, right? And he was like, oh no, I have a stack of them. They have to all go out. So I got sent another same unit, and literally it was like 8:30 on Saturday night, like a half hour before my shift ended. And I was sitting typing and I leaned back, so I didn't even my the cable for my headset didn't move. And it got a power surge, and within 12 hours it blew the headset itself because I was trying to use the headset elsewhere to see if it also was damaged. Yeah, bingo, Bob. Spring and fall are disappearing. Seems like we only have two seasons, extreme hot and extreme cold, no productive precipitation. Now, what I will say, Bob, is that's one of the reasons I haven't moved from Indianapolis, is that it hasn't been as hot as cold. I agree with you. I feel like we haven't had a winter in over a decade. I feel like it gets so fucking hot for so fucking long that in my eyes, I'd rather burn to death than freeze to death. That's the way I think about it. That's the way I've mentally dealt with this. Cooling paste. That's what it's called. Thank you, Petra. I was hoping one of two things would happen. I was hoping one person would be like, "That doesn't make any sense," and then I was hoping another person was like, "Actually, it's called this, and they're right. It's you can't do it because like it's the USB port that keeps overheating is at the front of the unit, and it's like, what are you going to do? Pull the back off and stick your hand in there? Yeah, once you get your hand up to the back of the USB port, how are you going to gum up the around the USB port when you can't do this movement? You can't do that. You can't paste the back of the USB thing. You can't. And it's like, what tool are you going to use to get back there and do that? And if you are going to do that and you're not just going to gum up that port from the back like you would on a regular unit, like they're just willing to take like I could be fired is what I'm long story short saying, even though I'm totally the one pointing out, like I think that this type of computer is not like this isn't a good idea. I make too much money to have this, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and it's totally the manufacturer. Yeah, and I don't even it's a Dell. It's a Dell. The little sandwich Dell. Yeah. I've blown through two of them. It's not a laptop. It's a desktop. Like I said, it's the sandwich PC. I have monitors behind. Like I don't, maybe you guys haven't seen the show. So there's me on OBS. I'm tracking to see if there's a hiccup in the show, right? And then there you can see it on YouTube, right? So I can see if I'm missing frames, right? There's a YouTube chat. So there you got a little picture of what's going on behind the scenes, right? But this is my personal stuff. I'm on my personal computer. hmm And I'm not always looking at myself. That would just happen to be what was on the screen. Um, but yeah, so hopefully they'll just give me a new computer and a new headset and say, thanks for completely confirming for us that these units were an issue. And the reason my coworkers haven't had as much of an issue is because they are using a wireless headset. All of my teammates but one, and his name is Boris. And then so if you think about all of the people that have done what the company didn't want us to do, which is use a wireless headset, 50% of the people that are doing what we're supposed to do have had issues. That's very high. Negative 45. What? Who had negative 45 CC in Crystal Lake? Yeah. Well, that's what we were told. We were told don't the company's policy. I'm one of those people don't break company policy. I live in an at-will employment state. I could get fired at any moment. I'm not gonna break your fucking don't use a wireless headset policy. But I literally sat in a meeting where my director's wearing a wireless headset, my boss is wearing a wireless headset, all my teammates wear wireless headsets, and I'm over here like, I just, it's like, I think I'm gonna use a wireless headset. Like, I should just be able to do that on your stuff, right? Um, because again, company policies don't wear a wireless headset. And I'm trying to obey the rules, even though like everybody else isn't. They're not having issues. They're just using wireless shit, and I'm like, right. But I didn't buy a wireless headset. I haven't bid on that yet. I didn't know negative 45 in Crystal Lake the winter before with wind. Whoa, with wind chills. Okay, yeah, I get it. But that's what climate change is going to do, and that's one of the things that people don't talk about enough. Is it's high highs and low and the lowest of lows, too. You're going to see a more extreme weather. That's kind of if you look at the map, there's a band across like the middle part of the United States that you would call like a green area, and above that map is a blue area, and in the blue area it's going to be too cold to live, and then below the green area that again is like the middle swath of the United States, below that area it's red, and that's going to be unlivable because it's too hot. Hmm. Yeah. And again, polarizing temperatures, right? High highs, low lows. And also windy all the time. Yeah, that's one of the things is wind. Have you ever seen like a little dust storm? Yeah, I never thought I'd see in with my own eyeballs. Like I would call it like a mini tornado, right? Like the Tasmanian devil. But I saw like a little dust devil. It was really windy, and it was just like some dirt rolling across a parking lot, hit trash, and the wind just hit it just right, and I watched it spin up in a parking lot. And it was I wouldn't say undestructive as it pulled and slung gravel from the parking lot all over the place as it whipped across the parking lot, and then it was just gone before it hit the dumpster. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, think about it was just windy, just some dust and some debris connected at the right time frame to cause the little dust devil to spin up. And it, like I said, it just slung pea gravel all over the fucking place until it eventually just died. And I just thought, what in the world? Somebody said on YouTube, somebody said it's a small dust devil. Yeah, they're crazy. And this was in Indiana. This was in Greenwood, Indiana, a few years ago. My friend started a business. I'll never forget that. I just like went to leave, was on my way walking out to my car, and like I said, it was just like a rustling. Obviously, it was been super windy, like windy enough. I'm a big guy, and it was kind of whoa, get into the car. She had Cece just had a dust storm. No, I didn't see it in the news because they weren't showing it. I saw it when I went to Reddit. Sorry, I had a bug. Yeah, that's crazy. again, as I've said before, um, everybody was clamoring for daily protest, and I want you to know that whether you're participating or not, it's happening. Okay? Yeah, you know what I saw yesterday? It's a crazy, speaking of which, I saw a video, slow motion of plasma being ejected from the sun. Like this isn't one of those stories where I'm like, and it's headed towards Earth. Like that's no, that's not the. Nah, it was just a sick angle from the side, and you could just see like the plasma just kind of whip up and flip off of the sun, and you're like, holy shit! Like, obvi if that massive wave of plasma hits something, right? Yeah, city of Chicago is covered in dust. Yeah. Yeah, no, I seen it on like suppressed news and shit where the city of Chicago. There's some actions right there. There's the IDF airstriking people digging a well to provide water for people. But and also um, Britain's second largest supermarket chain with 3,735 locations has voted to boycott all Israeli goods. Hey, just know, as the calls for justice for the genocide that Israel's conducting in Gaza get louder, the more they can connect it to the United States. And if you aren't condemning this regime in here in the United States for its role, if you weren't condemning the last administration for its role in providing weapons, okay, you need to be outspoken about the genocide that the IDF is conducting in Gaza and Palestine, free Palestine. Just so y'all know, especially if you're a Jesus fan, Jesus was from like what is now considered Palestine. That's where Jesus is from. He's from Bethlehem. hmm So just know, I am not a religious person. I think it's all hooey, but I find it blasphemous that Donald Trump would dare call the Holy Land a resort, the Riviera. And I understand how damned he is for even his family and his closest allies and friends intend to build the Riviera in Gaza. That's what all this is for. All those lives lost so that man can build a resort. So know that if you voted for Donald Trump and you spent the whole last administration shitting on the Democratic administration for not ending the genocide in Gaza, know that Donald Trump is friends with Bibi and they're in cahoots. And that Donald Trump got Bibi to not negotiate for a ceasefire during Biden's administration, which forced this administration's hand because the United States has to think about having an ally in the region. And I know that people don't want to hear that. They're like, oh, Jared, you're in the military. It's a bad look to say, and it's like, I can't do anything about the fact that the US and Israel are in cahoots. I can't do anything about it except point it out. I'm not in the service. Nobody gives a fuck about my service anyway. Okay. And I also want to point out, people talk about like we gave money and weapons to Israel. We gave them what are effectively coupons, and it allowed them to buy our old stockpile, and it allows us to invest in new stuff for our military. And again, I just want to point out, however invalid it is as a result of a genocide, that the US's position on Israel is that we need an ally in the Middle East. And the Middle East is a tumultuous area. And again, I've said this before, where that Palestine, the Gaza Strip, the Riviera, and an airport and a military base. Um, Again, to the surprise of no one, don't let this surprise you, right? When I tell you that's the plan, to provide the U.S. with a partner in the Middle East and set them right there in the Gaza Strip. And the way you ensure safety of all, right, is heavily militarize the airport, the base, and protect that golf course slash resort that Donald Trump lives on. It's the Mar-a-Lago, New Mar-a-Lago. As I've just got done telling you, if you thought what I was pontificating on earlier was conjecture and like there's no way this is real behavior, where I said Donald Trump is, uh, I voted what? I think it's kind of obvious, and the fact that you have to ask is kind of weird. I think it's pretty obvious who I voted for. Um, and now you made me forget what I was talking about. Um, what were we talking about? Somebody will remind me. Oh, what is intended to happen for Donald Trump is that he intends to build the golf course and hotel and resort in what is the Gaza. He sees it as the Riviera. Understand that's like holy land. It's like blasphemous to want it, right? So, and it ain't just Donald Trump. It's his family, and they're all invested in this. This is what they want. And how are you going to get it? Rise to power, partner with Benjamin Netanyahu, clear that area out, how by any means necessary, right? And kind of handcuffed the prior administration by telling Bibi, don't negotiate until I'm in power. He wanted the because what remember what they're planning to do is export 1 million people from Palestine to Libya. And I say export literally. I'm pretty sure it's for money. Yeah, I don't think that I could handle wearing a Marine Corps hat, sitting in front of an American flag, and having voted for Trump. I don't think I could do that. You get what I'm saying, BF? I would have like bags under my eyes. I'd be asking you for money. You'd be hearing country music or some shit. Some point, somebody's gonna be like, ha 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 ha. Ha. There's no grift here. I don't need your money. Just your ear. New Mar-a-Lago. Yep. That's the plan. Because I just told you he's defunding the National Weather Service and NOAA. Why? Because they bring reports to him and he doesn't know how to read. But he sits and reads, and I'm telling you, I haven't necessarily seen, hey, multiple fucking hurricanes are gonna fuck up Mar-a-Lago in the next 6 months. I haven't necessarily seen that. But what I've seen is there should be an increase in hurricanes in that area versus prior years when you look at modeling. I think I can say that with a level of confidence, especially with, like I said, with climate change getting to a point where we're in unknown territory. I'm willing to bet you he read a report that said Mar-a-Lago is about to get fucked. And he was just like, oh, got to get a new Mar-a-Lago, right? And that's been the plan. And there's a reason that he like he don't want to read them reports no more. I don't want to see that shit, right? And I just want to keep pointing out like people are dying in these storms that shouldn't because there's no early warning system, no NOAA, right? They we had it set up to where we were okay, right? We had an early warning system. We had advanced knowledge. It's always caps and misspelling. Yeah, when Joe Biden got announced with having cancer, what did you see? Complete sentences and a lack of caps. He didn't write that shit. Somebody took his phone and did that. They said anything less than this is fucking beneath you as a man. You say this or I'm done. I guarantee you somebody told him you will send nothing but condolences and move the fuck on with your life, Don. Probably one of his Secret Service guys, if he even has a Secret Service. Anyway, been here 90 minutes. I got to get out of here. I got to go deal with this work issue where I've blown out the USB port on two of these units, and they told me it was gonna happen. The tech support told me it was gonna happen, and it happened. And it blew out my personal headset. Here's a little Ether Rich. I hope that person got their question answered that asked me. So hey, have a good day. I appreciate y'all for being here. I'll see you tomorrow. I almost